you just live a lifestyle that you're able to have access to that you probably wouldn't if you didn't follow these things career-wise.
Okay.
And you just get, it's fun.
Yeah.
And you don't really know how far you're gone till somebody's like, hey,
what's going on?
Happening?
Hi. Thank you for joining yet another episode of Get Set with Lissette. This is where we have inspiring conversations that empower you to get set. And this week is yet another one of those episodes. We have today Chef Corrie, Executive Director and Chef. She is not a typical chef. She's a culinary genius with a heart as generous as her flavors are exquisite. As a mastermind in the kitchen and the Executive Director of Downtown Daily Bread, Chef Corrie blends her passion for fine cuisine with a commitment to serving the community. Additionally, in her role as the Executive Director of Downtown Daily Bread, she's a philanthropist on a mission to create a world where no one goes hungry and every meal is a celebration of compassion. Downtown Daily Bread is dedicated to providing essential services for the unsheltered and hungry in the local community of Harrisburg, PA, and Greater Central Pennsylvania at this point. So thank you, Chef Corrie, for joining with me.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. Exactly.
Same. I am excited. Yeah.
The reason for this conversation, I think it's so important, is multifaceted. It's because of the fact that you came in guns blazing. You've come into this community and you've really honestly been a trailblazer and a trendsetter.
Thank you.
But I really want to have a conversation and get to know you.
Yes.
Secondly, in everything that you've accomplished with Downtown Daily Bread, I really want to just shine a light on the transformation that this organization has really taken on, which I think is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And then we're also going to touch on the fact that sis can cook.
Yeah.
So sis is doing it, you're doing your thing.
Thank you.
So I just thought that this conversation is not only going to inspire individuals due to the fact that we're going to get to know you.
Yes.
But you're also a woman with heart, and you're bringing that heart here to our area, and I just think that that's amazing.
Thank you so much.
So
I'm so honored to be. I'm so excited.
Yes,
it's Monday, and it's Monday, so it's like the best way to start my morning.
This is the way to get this
very much
for you.
Forward to.
And we're just gonna pour in all of the love, giving you your flowers. That's the way to get your day started.
Yes, I love that.
Now, one of the things that I always do. And it's more like an icebreaker. Sis don't need an icebreaker, but it's more like an icebreaker to get things going.
Yes.
And it also allows us to know like more about you. So this is kind of like, are you this or that? Okay.
Yes.
So are you sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Okay. Morning person or night owl?
Morning person for sure.
Okay.
Yes. 4 a.m. every morning.
You were legit a morning person.
Very much too much of a morning person, I'd say.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Oh,
that's very yes.
No, ready. No worries.
No chase. I'm just like, hey,
let's go.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know where that came from, but
you're
just out there. I'm like the one that people will talk to at the store, and then I'm talking to them like we're best friends forever.
Feel that.
And people are like, do you know them? Like, no, met them just now. Yeah,
totally. We're here on that one. That has been me through and through. And then my last question, and there is no wrong.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch the podcast or listen to the podcast, the audio?
Yeah. So usually if it wasn't me, I would listen.
I got it.
Because I want to see like, did I say too much or how did I look? I will watch.
Okay.
Yes. And then I'll probably listen again, like re-listen, but I love listening to the podcast.
I'm a podcast listener as well.
Yeah.
Hence the even starting it. Like I do love to just throw on a good podcast while I'm working, throw on a good podcast while I'm doing things. Like the ability to continue to learn and grow while doing other things is amazing.
Agree.
But I agree. There's something different when you actually watch it back. So like I said, no wrong. So, okay. So one of the things that I also wanted to do is to give context.
Yeah.
I believe that context is important. And I want to also just shine a light on not only you, but on the topic of, because of the fact that we're going to be discussing Downtown Daily Bread and you guys really work with the unsheltered and individuals that are experiencing homelessness, I wanted to give some local context within that. So I looked at things that were like Commonwealth specifically.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me if these stats surprise you, if you feel like it's off, like we can kind of talk about it.
Yeah, of course.
On any given day, over 12,000 Pennsylvanians are known to be homeless across the Commonwealth. And then in 2018/19, more than 31,000 students in Pennsylvania were identified as experiencing homelessness, representing 1.8% of the total student population. Here's what was more staggering to me. This marks a 37% increase since the 2013-14 school year, despite an overall 1% decline in student enrollment during that same period. Now, mind you, some of these stats are years behind, but that's because statistics tend to be a little further. And then I found something from 2023 that said 17.9% of households with children, 6.5 million households, just to kind of give an idea of what that stat means, were food insecure, with both adults and children experiencing food insecurity in 8.9% of those households.
Yeah.
How does that, does that?
Yeah, it's sad every time you hear it, honestly. But no, that tracks, and it gets worse every year, unfortunately.
Okay.
I was honored to be invited to do the Dauphin County hunger mapping.
Yeah.
You talked about Lancaster, and in that we did find it was I think it's 6 out of 10.
Wow.
6 out of 10 children are found food insecure.
See?
More than adults, and that was the big question. Well, how can kids
Exactly.
be food insecure and not adults? But it's just different situations for each family, different situations for each child.
Yes.
But that's why these food programs are needed. That's one of the reasons we started the food pantry at DDB.
See?
Was because of the stats that kept coming out, and then the actual real time within Harrisburg. People just calling us do you have food? Do you have groceries?
Absolutely.
I get a gift card? And you just kind of track okay, what have we seen?
Right.
And we at Downtown Daily Bread last year, our numbers were 40,000 people came through the building for that year just to use services. Over 70,000 meals served.
70,000
Over 70,000 meals served in that year. It's insane.
And that's exactly it. And the reason why I wanted to start with those stats, and we're gonna get to know you for in the forefront as well, because the goal is to have the conversation about you. But I wanted to start with the context of this actual need.
Yes.
Because I don't think that we discuss it enough.
No.
Right?
Don't. Yeah.
And we also, I personally think, we categorize and in our heads stereotype homelessness without considering all of the other social determinants and all of the other necessities that individuals experience, where maybe they are what we call couch surfing or staying with people, but the food insecurity is still there. Or I just feel like having conversations where we're bringing to light our backyard, right? Our community. And explaining this is happening not over there. It's here.
Your neighborhood.
It's literally your neighbors.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason for the context, because for me, any given day, knowing that that amount, in fact, let me pull it up again, the staggering statistic on Pennsylvanians that are homeless is crazy to me. So 12,000, that was the number on any given day. Over 12,000 Pennsylvanians are known as. And that doesn't even take account for individuals that are just kind of off the grid.
No, exactly. That don't get counted for, that kind of go between the cracks.
Exactly.
And people need to sometimes we think homelessness means they're outside.
Exactly.
You brought up a great point. Some of the government and how they count it. It is if you have been out for 3 days homeless. So you really could just be having a hard time, but you're going to be counted as homeless if you don't have the permanent address, if you don't have you're on your friend's couch, whatever that looks like.
Exactly.
There's so many different layers of why someone becomes unhoused and food insecure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's literally my goal in life, is to continue to educate and advocate. I don't think people can advocate for something they're not educated on.
Ooh.
And it's easy to just put a blanket over it, this is just all unsheltered all, they just don't want to work. They're just lazy. And that's a lot of what we've heard.
Right.
I've been doing this for like 8 to 9 years now.
Yes.
And that's how I looked at it too when I started. Like, you don't know. So until you're educated in a thing, then you can turn around and advocate because like, no, actually, she was fleeing domestic violence. And, it's easier to just leave than let a judge say who's doing it, who's not.
Exactly.
And people don't think about stuff like that. People just,
and why would you? It's not in your
affecting you. Why would you sit and worry about it? And I think that's when I knew what my passion was, because I've cried over these things. My dad used to tell me, like, if you haven't cried over it, if you're not burdened by it, it's not your purpose. And I carry that. Like, he was a pastor, so it was like my wisdom. I bought him like my wisdom box, and I was like, Dad, what do you think about this? And he used to just say, like, have you cried over this? And each program you'll see that we launch or that I do personally, there's tears that
have been shed.
There's thoughts that were given. There's planning that comes with it. It's not just a thing of like, oh, this makes me feel good.
Right.
Let me do it. No, you take a big risk when you try to systematically change something. Because I don't change just live. Like, this is a system that I have to kind of
you have to go all go all the way back, and like literally you're reframing, completely restructuring systems.
Exactly.
And I don't think that individuals can really grasp the magnitude of what that really is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people fall into the, if it isn't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Like, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Then we just are going to continue to perpetuate the exact same cycle until change actually occurs.
Yeah.
And in order for real change to occur, and you hit the nail on the head, you've got to change the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, girl.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. But you said, and I just need to highlight that.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't cried over it, like, it hasn't burdened you, which means it's not a true passion.
No, that's what makes me know if people are doing it for show or if they really like bleed this, if it's passionate.
Right.
And that's how I discern everybody, because there's a lot of people saying, I do this, I do that. And it's great, but it's like, you will know the difference of every person that's doing something passionately than if it's just for show. Because I could care less. Like, I love the accolades. I love these awards that come.
Right.
But if my name was never mentioned in any room, I don't care. Because I know the people that I serve every day, that's enough for me.
That's it.
The fact they know I can go and the doors open at 7 a.m. I have 3 meals a day. I can lay down. I can try to find a job.
Absolutely.
That's the absolute enough. I can go to sleep knowing like I did what I was supposed to do for today.
I didn't know that.
Everything else is extra. But I think people get confused of like, let me do it now because she's getting, it's like, no, if I never had to go to another award ceremony, I would be so fun and fine.
Actually, don't. I'm not mad.
Yeah, like I don't do it for that.
Right.
I just want to do it for those guests that we have that have become family.
Right.
I've been doing this since 2017.
So
they are family to me. They know every time I had a baby, they know my kids' age, they know birthdays, and vice versa.
Right.
And it just becomes this family and it's easier to advocate for family than strangers.
Very true.
Because I'm
now
going
it's
hard
personal
for my family.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now it's personal. It's a personal attack. So when I see, these things closed or they're trying to criminalize being homeless, it's like, I take that personal because that can be my family members.
Correct. You're actually criminalizing someone that I know and you don't know the individual.
Exactly. You don't know the story health that they're dealing with. You don't know like the hard times that they're on. It's not always about they can't get a job and they want to be unsheltered. I do balance that with there are some that
who make
want
those
to be
choices.
off the grid,
Exactly.
and they are happy.
Right.
And we let them be great.
Absolutely.
But there are more that don't want to be in the situation than do. And those are who I fight for every single day.
And that's the point right there.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain heart to be able to discern that exact statement. Like, everyone has free will.
Yeah.
And everyone has the ability to make choices. And for whatever reason or another, those choices are made.
Yeah.
But what we can't do is get into the habit of making huge assumptions without really knowing context or what an individual is actually choosing versus life happening.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to like gather their bearings and like
Exactly.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But that leads me to a great segue because, like I said, you have to have a certain heart to do this work. So let's talk about Corrie.
Yes.
And who Corrie is.
Yes.
So who is Corrie? Like prior
I
to the
love this.
accolades.
Yes, prior to, and I think as I said off camera, like a lot of people see the now,
Right.
and they don't see the past.
Exactly.
And I fight with that a lot because I know the opposite of like people, like we were talking about, people see what you used to do and they can't get hit with what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I actually have the opposite problem. I moved here 10 years ago
Okay.
and I was still like 19, 20
Yeah.
and getting my bearings as a chef.
Okay.
And I was a single mom. So I became a single teen mom at 17. I had my first daughter.
Okay.
Pastor's kid.
Lordy.
The big origin is I was adopted. So my whole family's white. I was biracial in a majority white, wealthy neighborhood.
Okay.
The joke always was like, are you here for the school year? Because we'd have foster kids come through. And I always, every year, had to say, I'm adopted. I'm here for the whole school year.
Right.
And you don't realize till you're in therapy in your 30s how traumatizing that is.
I was just going to say.
Always fight your way to be a permanent thing.
Yeah, like, no, actually, I'm here.
Yeah,
like
and
I'm
it was
here.
every year.
Oh,
Even if
wow.
I would have like different teachers or the same teachers, they were just like, it just was this elephant in the room that you just, yes, I'm here for the whole school year. I'm adopted.
They just
and just to announce every year, like, I'm adopted. I'm here to stay.
Right.
I have my family's last name. So like even that, people will be like, they're still trying to like that's not a Black last name. I'm like, I'm adopted. My family's German.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just growing up with that, my family never made me feel
I was gonna ask
less than or an outcast. I didn't even know I was biracial till like 2nd to 3rd grade.
Wow.
One of my friends came. This is a funny story, but my friend came up and licked my arm. And he was like, you don't taste like chocolate. Like, we thought you were going to taste like a Hershey Kiss. And I laugh now. And I think I did laugh then.
What could you do? That is the most
weird. Right. And I went to my mom after school and I told her.
What happened?
And I said, am I different? Like, what's going on? And she sat me down and was like, yes, you're different. You're biracial.
Wow.
And
was that also the like adoption story?
It wasn't. So that was not. I think I was like 8 or 9. It was like a year or two after.
Got it.
It was something else said to me at school. And then I went again and asked my mom, like, well, they said you're not my mom. And she had tears in her eyes. And I think as a parent, like now that I'm a parent, you can't hide things forever. I think if she could, she would have.
Well, she doesn't want to hide.
And she doesn't. Yeah. Like I just saw the heartbreak to tell me.
Yeah.
And that just opened a whole can of like, okay, who is Corrie? Who am I? I spent 2 decades trying to figure that out.
Really?
I found out who I was at 29.
Okay.
I have a specific number because I found my biological family.
Wow.
In the year of 29. And I said to my dad, I want to find that first chapter because I don't want to turn 30. Like it's 3 decades now. You have no idea who you are.
Fair.
And you're living a life of rejection, abandonment. Why didn't my mom want me? What's wrong with me? I got in relationships that weren't good. I had a great dad, but I didn't have this feeling of like, but I don't feel wanted. Like if the person that birthed me, and that hit me after I had kids, because I felt so connected to my daughter that even pregnant, I'm like, how could she give me up like this?
What would happen? Like, what's the story?
Like, I couldn't have imagined giving my child up.
Oof.
Even when I was like 17, what do I know about being a mom? My mother had passed of cancer when I was 12.
I'm so sorry.
I just didn't know, but I was so adamant, like, I'm breaking the cycle. I'm not going to give my baby up. That's what my biological mom
did this.
And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to still be a mom and rock out. And we're going to make it. Like, I just knew, like, it's going to be fine.
You're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And I eventually did. You know, I'm still, she's 16. I'm still catching on. I think you just learn as you go.
Well, how amazing. Can we just hit on, like you said so much, but in the best of ways that I just don't want to like steer away from that. Yay. Having the ability at such a young age, at 17, like to be pregnant and to be bringing life into the world, but to have such a like strong stance and say, no, I know, and I'm dealing with what it feels like to have been rejected, to have been let go of. And so I don't know what I'm going to do in life, but that's a huge decision. Like you're making a decision to bring life into this world and to keep this daughter.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And so like talk on like what that felt like. So you give birth, you have this baby, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going to happen. I don't think I took a breath till like last year.
I can't with you.
Where I was
like, hold on now.
Okay, she's 16, we're good. And even then, I'm like, let me hold my breath until she's like 20-something. But
so you just been going.
I've been going. I think in motherhood, especially when you're a teen, and I watched my life of like I grew up with my daughter.
Absolutely,
and
literally,
that was okay.
Okay,
but now that I'm a mother again in my 30s, like, oh, okay, like we're doing things a little bit differently. And not that I was a horrible mom, but like the patience wasn't there.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out my life. At the time, a week before I found out I was pregnant, I got accepted into one of the best culinary art schools. And that's when I had to decide, because I said, I don't want to resent my kid.
Right.
And I held my stomach and I said, I knew what my daughter's name was going to be because they said it was a girl. And I was like, Janessa.
Okay. I love it.
It means God's grace. And so I said, like, God always has grace for me. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm passing up.
Hey,
His grace is sufficient.
I
held that. Yeah. I said, hey, Ness, we're going to make this the best. And I looked at I'm like, and you're not going to mess my life up. I'm going to love you. And I'm going to do everything I said I was going to do.
Wow.
Before I knew you were here.
I know that's
And
right.
we just talked. And I just said, but I also like healed myself too of like, hey, I didn't have that mom.
Right.
Biologically, my mother then was taken from me at 12.
12, exactly.
So it's like, I'm going to be here for you. And that was like this decision of like, I'm going to change that cycle because I don't know why my biological mom gave me up. I don't want to put anyone through that.
Yeah.
And something that I love, and I think too, a lot of people don't talk about when you're adopted,
you
don't have blood relatives. So this was my first blood relative in life.
Yeah.
And that meant something. So I don't know why I was so deep at 17, because like, why? But for me, that was like that, like, oh, okay, I'm going to have a blood relative, like protected at all costs.
Exactly.
And I convinced my dad, like, hey, I'll get a job. I will do what I have to do. I was in an abusive relationship with her father. So we never circled back around. It was just like, I knew I was going to be a single mom.
Yeah.
His family later, his mother helped me to this day. That's been like my other side.
Okay.
Yeah. So she is in the picture, the aunts, things like that. And it was still God's way to show me like, you don't need the traditional way of what you had in mind.
Exactly.
It will work out.
Right.
And just be positive about it.
Like you said,
you don't see it then. But exactly.
Yes.
And it literally just was my testimony of, I didn't know. Like I took a risk.
Right.
But I took a risk on myself because I said, like, I'm going to be the best mom I can be. And I'm never going to let this baby feel unwanted or rejected or a mistake.
Right.
I'm never going to resent her. So each choice I make, I think of it like 10 years later, like, am I going to look at her like, well, I didn't do that. And Ness will be 17 on Sunday.
Wow.
And I can tell you in 17 years, I've never made a sacrifice that wasn't worth it. I've never once looked at her to say, I didn't get to be what I wanted to be. And I pray that people look at that and say, like, I can do it.
Absolutely.
And it's not cocky. It's really just like,
that's just honest.
Made myself to everything I wanted to be.
Absolutely.
I wanted to be the
shit. It's a circumstance or like
and
situation.
There's like surprises that God threw in. Like I would have never thought like, okay, CEO before 30, but it was just like, oh, okay, I made the right decision. I bet on me. And I bet on this beautiful baby.
Absolutely.
And she is amazing. Like she's beat every statistic. They always say like in the first 2 years, you'll be a single mom again.
Yeah.
Your child will be a teen mom. Like we're killing it out here.
I know that's right. She's like, look.
And she's like, I'm going to college. I don't want kids. I've learned. And it's a very honest mother-daughter bond too. Anyone that knows us, like we're not best friends. We're mom and daughter.
I was going to choose.
Yeah, we do not play the bestie.
Okay.
I say you're my bestie when you have a daughter.
Oh, that's right.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
But she knows I have her.
Yeah.
And she tells me everything.
I love
It's a very safe relationship. It's everything I wanted in a mom that I didn't get because she passed.
You're literally
I
creating
cultivated that
cultivating
atmosphere of like, I want my daughter to tell me everything. I want her to feel safe. I want her to know she's never going to be judged.
Right.
I want her to be confident.
Right.
I want her to look for a man because her mom is doing everything for her, or her father figure. Her mom's picked a safe father figure.
Right.
I just wanted her to see healthy dynamics.
And all, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Before my mom passed, my parents were madly in love. They were married for 33 years.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to give that to my child.
Absolutely.
Whatever that looks like for our dynamic.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you literally, and I'm just trying to recap to make sure that I don't miss anything, because you're giving your story is beautiful. You literally start life rejected, quote unquote, because
you're right.
You start life being given away.
Yeah.
You spend your early childhood having to convince and remind individuals that, no, I am here to stay. This family has actually chosen me. And you have to continually like remind individuals, no, this isn't temporary. This is forever. No, this isn't temporary. You grow up with that. You have this relationship with mother and father where you did create and have an ability to have loving parents, and you did have an example of a healthy relationship in them, and yet still kind of like, but now I know that I'm a part of, but not 100% in it, but there's some separation. So you're going through your own like identity questions and crisis kind of thing. Teenage years in general are just ridiculous.
Yes.
You become a teenage mother, but you've made a decision at 17, which is a very, like you said, very deep for 17. You made a decision to say, it's not about me. It's about what I am creating. And it's about the blood and the family that, while yes, I've had family in representation, I'm now creating my own dynamic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter when it comes, right? Like, because it may not be ideal, but I say that to say, like, situations at times may not be ideal, but you had enough foresight to say, but this is my family, and I'm not going to resent. I'm not going to let go of, or it's not like a this or that, like you did on our icebreaker. It's not a this or that. It's I can have both.
Yeah.
I'm making a choice to not reject the way I felt rejected. I'm going to embrace it.
Yes.
And we're going to rock out. And now here you are.
Yeah.
And so talk about it. So you still went to culinary school.
Yeah.
So you still got like, you killed it, and you got trained, and you did the thing.
I did the thing. Janessa was 3. Yeah, she was 3 when I graduated. With that degree, I went to culinary management. And that's why I want people to also look at my story and say, like, it doesn't matter the like journey.
Right.
You'll get there.
You'll get there.
Because I wanted to do Johnson and Wales. That was like the top school at the time. And my dad was like, you're not taking a baby to North Carolina.
Right. There's no way.
Her grandmother, who came in the picture after birth, her paternal grandmother, she said, I will take her for 3 years and you finish school.
Wow.
And I'm like, I didn't have a baby to let you raise it. And I was just so scared of like, I don't think that's the best idea.
Right.
Looking back, I probably would have. Like, now that I know. And at the time, you didn't know person.
Yeah.
But I always tell her, like, that's the only regret I have is I probably should have just let you do that.
Yeah.
And circle back around. Like, she wouldn't have remembered and have that running joke. But I went to Art Institute of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Got my culinary arts and culinary management degree. And then I was taken out of that.
Yeah.
A chef was traveling. They found me. It was for a resort. Yeah. And so I didn't even have to start like usual trained chefs. Right. They start in like restaurants. I went right to a 5-star resort.
Wow.
It was through Omni, William Penn. Yeah. It was in Bedford. It was like 30 minutes from where I lived. Perfect. And that's what kicked off my career.
Love that.
I look back and I'm like, okay, I still got to where I wanted to be. My goal was to be this chef. I wanted to have my business, restaurant, whatever that looked like, catering company.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm just going to be this chef. I'm going to cook for celebrities. I'm going to do this. And I have been blessed to like check the boxes of those goals.
Right.
But I also to show my daughter, like, it doesn't matter. Like, just do, like, just say what you're going to do.
Exactly.
And do it. And if God approves it, it's going to happen. Because those are lessons I've had to learn too. Like, some you'll get through it because yourself.
Right.
It won't last.
Yes.
So God has let me do things for me.
Right.
That were like short lived.
Fair.
But it was a lesson. And I said,
Correct.
"Oh, I don't think you were there in that." That's what I say now. Like, I don't think God is in that.
Right. Yeah. Like, that was it, but I
Yeah,
still
he'll let her do it. But like, no. It's like those like fun relationships that you're like, I know this man is toxic, but I'm gonna still have fun for the summer. So, stuff like that, where you just have to learn your lesson. So there's been a lot of those too on the journey, like just lessons.
Understood. You're like, well, let's not go back on.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, okay, we're not gonna spin the block on that.
But it goes back to what we said, free will. So
Exactly.
but having the ability to discern as we go forward on like what's really taking us down the path on where we're meant to go versus doing things for self.
Yes, exactly.
We get to do them all, but you will learn very early,
Really quick,
what is supposed to be part of your and versus what needs to kind of like be removed. And let's not revisit. So let's talk then. Now you're at a 5-star. You were literally trained chef, doing the thing, working at cooking at the best of the best, cooking with the best of the best. What brings you then to leave that kind of lifestyle?
Yeah.
And now you're venturing into actually like taking cooking, but also it's almost like cooking with heart now.
Yes.
Like that's the way I think of it. Now you're doing something and you're doing it from a different lens. Like what happens in your life that takes you away from resorts, restaurants, all of the like echelon kind of things into a more community focused, community driven, heart driven ministry, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Ministry. And I'm so glad you brought that up. My dad used to say that.
That's your ministry.
Because I come from, he was a pricer, as my brother's a pastor. I'm like, I'm never doing ministry. And God laughs every time. Like, oh, okay, that's what you thought. So yeah, the pivot was I kind of hit rock bottom in my life. I burnt out as the chef. Was 24 at the time. And my chef and it's a lifestyle that anyone is in it can explain. But just think of like, it's a fast, it's thrilling. If you have celebrity clients, you're with them. So imagine the things you see. You're making money. Yes, you're 20-some. This is the most money I've ever seen in my life. And it's mine.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I only have one kid.
You're like, I can do all the things.
Yes. And it's greedy.
Got it.
You just become this person that you're like, okay, what's going on? Like, this isn't where I started. This is why I started. And my dad one day came and he's like, you're not yourself. Like, what's going on?
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I was drinking a lot. And I stopped drinking at like 21. And so like,
go figure.
No kids don't drink before 21, but you just live a lifestyle that you're able to have access to that you probably wouldn't if you didn't follow these things career-wise.
Okay.
And you just get, it's fun. Yeah. And you don't really know how far you're gone till somebody's like, hey, what's happening?
Yeah.
And that was my dad and my aunt. And my aunt's very like religious, very Christian. And one day she just gave it to me and I'm like, okay, I guess you're right.
Right. Sometimes you need to be sad.
You need that love in your life to be like, what are you doing?
Right.
Because I didn't think it was a problem, like giving my daughter everything.
You're like, my daughter is taken care of. I'm like, killing it in the mom game. I'm killing in the career.
Career's right. But then you feel like your heart is just not, it's like, where am I?
Right.
And I found myself asking that. Me and my chef had a conversation. He said, you don't have the sparkle in your eyes anymore. I don't see this passion. You're burnt out.
Yeah.
You're not who you were when you came in here like 4 to 5 years ago. And he's like, is there anything else you want to do? I said, well, I love to talk. Maybe I should do communications.
Right.
I want to do a catering company. Right. So I'll do something with like PR. I didn't know yet.
Right.
So you're like, there's something else.
Yeah. You're like, this is just where I'm headed.
This is too much.
Right.
And let me stop. God will always give you that like, hey, destruction's coming.
Yeah.
And he'll give you that exit.
Absolutely.
I've learned that too. Like, you're always gonna have an exit door, whether you take it or not. He'll give it to you. And I found that exit door.
Okay.
And I left. And I came to Carlisle.
Okay.
And I took a job at the Hotel Hershey. So I still kind of was in that sweet spot.
Got it.
It slowed down though. But I still was like, something's not right. I'm not where I need to be. So I went back to school. I did
Okay.
my undergrad at Hack for communications, public relations.
Yeah, go
And I got a second degree,
Yeah.
and I was substitute teaching. It's
Okay.
very weird. I don't know where I loved kids,
Yeah.
but not enough that I'm like, why am I substitute teaching?
Kudos to you for just like,
But I'm just thinking, yeah, like I'm a single mom, I need to really find a job. And let me just substitute teach. And then I was off when my kid was off, so it was like perfect schedule.
Got it.
But I ended up it was called Hilltop Academy.
Okay.
And it was for behavioral children, like children that had two different, like whether they were autistic and schizophrenic.
Okay.
A lot of behavioral things.
Okay.
Still could not figure out, like, why am I here? Met great friends that were teachers.
Yes.
Great students, but was there for 2 years. And then there was like a shift that they weren't hiring anymore for substitute teaching. And I just remember coming home and I'm like, what's next? Like, what am I going to do?
Like another degree.
Yeah. And I'm just like, what am I doing? And I went to my daughter's grandmother that we were living with. And I said, like, hey, I know I could go back and do a chef gig.
Right.
But I know that's not what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got really emotional. And I said, but like, I've gotten used to money and having money. And I'm not going to have money. And I just started crying.
Right.
She's like, you need to pray. Like, you need to take 24 hours and let God, like, you need to really kind of apologize that you got off track.
Right.
And you need to see what he wants you to do.
That part.
And in that 24 hours, I saw this Downtown Daily Bread, social media, office manager. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's close by.
Yeah.
It could pay the bills. So let me apply. Did an interview.
Okay.
Didn't hear from the ED for like a week.
Okay.
And then I'm like, nervous because my other job's about to end.
Right.
And I'm like, what am I gonna do?
You're like, I don't have
I don't have a backup plan.
Right.
I don't have food
You're like,
stamp.
this is it.
I don't have cash assistance. Like, I need a check.
This is it. Right.
And it was like down to the 11th hour. And I just remember crying because I said, Lord, but in my heart, I felt like there's nowhere else for me to be.
Okay.
So you
there's felt confident about
coming.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, and like I kept calling. Her name was Ann, and I said, like, hey, I did this interview. I thought I had it.
Yeah. Where are you on the
I declared that I had it. Like, I left the interview and said, God, if that's for me, it's for me. But I feel that I'm supposed to be here.
Okay.
And she's like, I am so sorry. I was in California. Okay. I wanted to tell you to come in tomorrow. Come in tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, like, I'll be in tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I went in and I said, like, what was it? Like, you had me. And she's like, no, I saw the passion in your eyes. I just literally, for a family emergency, had to fly out to California.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay. So but it was so funny because it's like, imagine God already has it for you, but he needs to like take all this crap from you.
Right.
To show you, like, you have no control here. And that was my, like, come to Jesus moment.
Talk about it.
And that's why I never get ahead of myself.
Yes.
Like, you could see everything going on for me and don't ever think it phases me. Because God has literally taken to everything.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, okay. And it was one of those things, like, I couldn't call my dad for help. Even my daughter's gram, like, she's like, you can live here, but you're an adult. Like, you can figure this out.
Figure it out. Exactly.
And it was so funny because I'm like, Lord, is this a joke? Like, you knew I had it this whole week, but then you let me sit and cry all week and just apologizing and just getting things gone and just repenting and going through this. And I was
preparing you.
Yeah. Yes. And then I started there.
Yes.
And it's been a wrap ever since. And it's just continued to go up and up and up. But
so you start as a social media manager, kind of like just kind of doing the work and helping them. Using your communications degree now.
Yeah.
But you're at a place that also deals with giving food. And there was a chef there. And I'm like, I kind of like stayed in my lane because a chef to a chef, like a step on her toes. Right.
But just seeing like, okay, and I'd go down and serve. Like, that's where I started. Like, oh, I'll serve lunch.
Okay.
Let me come down and see what you're making. And she'd be making really cool things. I'm like, this is different. Like,
so you're serving. You're like, I'm coming of a place of just like help.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, we'll do it. And I started there in June. November, 2 days before Thanksgiving, she quits. Just like up and leaves.
Okay.
And the ED was like, hey, you're a chef. Like, can you just cover Thanksgiving till I find someone?
Okay.
I was like, well, yeah, they have to have Thanksgiving.
Right.
Didn't know what that entailed, but I'm like, sure. And at that time, we were doing 150 meals.
Okay.
We only had lunch.
Okay, so at that point,
time,
there was only lunch. Because that's the DDB that I remember. Because I come from social work way back when, so I remember the location, but that's all I remembered.
And that's all we had till 2019. I had a breakfast.
Okay.
So all we were doing was lunch. So made this, bomb Thanksgiving meal. And then the guests were like, oh, this was so good. Like, oh, you make your stuff from scratch? I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to make food not from scratch. So I don't do the process.
Exactly. You're like,
like my things are, you're going to see garlic. I'm cutting onions. Like, yeah, we're making everything.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
5 years in, the joke was, hey, did you find a chef yet? Because I never left. I just was like, oh, I guess. And I went and got a chef coat.
Okay.
And I put it on. I always used to wear black chef coats with my name. This one I got white.
Okay.
And I said, we're different. I'm not stepping back into that world.
Right.
I'm gonna be good. Like, I'm gonna be.
Well, it was like, oh.
And it was like, it represented. I'm so like, sometimes cheesy and deep.
No,
but
I love it.
To me, I'm like, it just represented, I'm putting my white chef coat on. And we're just going to rock out.
Got it.
And I just added breakfast and we just kept going.
So okay. So we're going to keep the journey going. So you literally go in there for social media, like manager position.
Yeah.
By divine timing, the current chef leaves. Yeah. At this point, you had come in more so just as this is what I do for my paycheck, but let me just help, let me serve, because that's what happens when you're in a small organization, period. Like, it's all hands on deck at any point.
Yeah.
You're doing that. Now you're full circle moment, going right back into where you started with your passion in cooking.
Yes.
Now you're the chef there, but in a different mindset. Now you're yet again cooking, using your skill sets and your passion for food, but now for community.
Yeah.
Let's talk about now how that then transitions, because you're now the executive director.
Now exactly.
Like, you're literally the CEO of this organization.
It's been insane. So I start Thanksgiving dinner,
and that's it.
We're cooking and we're carrying on. We're having fun. I made the slogan 2 years in. I made my cookbooks. It's called Feeding the People. My brand is actually called Feeding the People with Chef Corrie. And one day I was just in the kitchen. I was on the phone with a friend.
Hold on now. We're going to pause and we're going to rewind real quick. So while at Downtown Daily Bread, we're not going to just pass over that. You made a book.
Yeah, so I'm on my third.
Girl.
I think I have 3 books now.
Oh, we're going to put all of them in the description.
When we go through that, I made Feeding the People. It was like a kind of together cookbook of all my favorite easy recipes.
Okay.
Because people would call me. I put it on like my Instagram.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, what's the recipe?
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I should sell this. Like, this is okay, like, fine. So I said, Feeding the People. Because I was in the kitchen one day talking to my friend. And she's always like, what are you doing? I was like, Feeding the People, girl.
Right.
Feeding the People. She's like, yeah, you're just found Feeding the People. And I was like, I need to like trade.
This is a thing, right? Like,
so
this is a thing.
And all that. I'm like, no, it's my brand, Feeding the People. So that was the first cookbook. And then I did a children. So my bonus son is autistic, nonverbal.
Okay.
And so one day we're just drawing and he starts tracing. And I'm like, oh, he's never done that before. So I made it's called Taste the Alphabet A to Z. It's a tracing book.
Yeah.
And then it has activities. They can match food, things like that. So it was like my kid, just something that we shared together. Right. And I was like, let me do a kid book for that.
Oh, I love
So I did that. And then my newest one is 30-minute meals. Feeding the People 30-minute meals. And that's what the show came. I have a cooking show now for a segment.
Yes,
we'll talk about.
No, I know.
Yeah, so it's just like while I'm there, cooking, being passionate, I was used to say, like, I'm getting paid to do what I love.
What you love.
And that was insane.
Absolutely.
It still feels surreal. Like, I never wake up and feel burdened. Like, I have to go to a job.
Right.
I can't wait to go.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people have to pull me out of work. Because
that's
like,
when you know. Yeah, that's when you know.
Leave. Exactly. Because like, if I could just live there with my kids
and get this done and
do everything at the place would be perfect. Yeah, so that was kind of the journey. And I started to build a personal brand because I got more confident with who I was. Like I said, I found my biological family. I found the real truth behind that story, which was just like my birth mom was looking for me till she had passed away. So I had to heal that immediately because you're living a life where you feel rejected, abandoned.
Truth.
When you're in a state of performance, you start to people please. When I was adopted, I felt they could send me back. So I used to do stuff like, they'll not send me back if I do this or if I do
doing it, going above and beyond.
and so you're an adult trying to please adults so they can keep you and not understanding like it doesn't matter. Right. Keep yourself. So that's the healing journey I had to go on immediately. Like when it was 30, I'll be 35 next month. But 5 years ago, I said like I have to heal that because imagine going 29 years being rejected.
Right.
And I had to apologize to myself.
Right.
Because I'm like, you put yourself in very crazy situations and relationships because you felt not worthy enough.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, girl.
That was crazy.
Right.
And I say that respectfully to myself, but
no, that's real.
We've had conversation. I'm like, Corrie, I apologize. And we're moving on and we're going to do better. And that, like, when I became confident in who I was, it was easier to build a brand that I was authentic.
Right.
That I wasn't trying to please anybody. If someone didn't like the price, they don't need to be
That's not your people.
If they don't like the food, they can go elsewhere. Right. But for me, before, I would have like done a circus for them to like me.
Changed it all. Try to figure it out. Right. And you don't need to.
And I don't need to. And people will always get surprised by that because they're like, you're one of the most confident women I know.
Right.
But I didn't get here. You don't get confident without having some insecurities.
Ooh.
You don't like wake up and say like, unless you're Beyonce, and I think even she is probably like,
absolutely.
Hey, I wasn't always like this. Yes. I did not wake up like this.
Honey.
It takes work,
girl.
But it took deep work of like healing. It's not something that I could buy. Right. It's not like a serum that I'm using. Like I love my skincare routine. Right. But the glow is like healed. You know what I mean?
The glow is healed.
That is it. I'm a healed person, and I could never say that for the longest time. And my actions would show in that. Even when I look back on certain things that I used to do as like a chef, I'm like, oh, I wasn't healed. Like I was still trying to get people's like
their
affirmation, their approvals, things like that.
Yeah.
And you take bigger risks when you're authentic. And I found that in the last 2 years, like, I don't care. Right. And I used to say, like, is this what happens when you turn 30? Like, maybe it's my kid.
Turn 40.
Maybe I found the love of my life. Is this why I just don't care? And they're like, just keep living. It's got to keep getting better. Yeah. So I'm like, I can't wait for that. Yeah. Now I'm just on this, like, I do not care. As long as my kids are good. Yeah. As long as I'm okay. With my decisions. Because
and you can live with yourself.
And I can live with myself. I can sleep okay at night. I know I didn't make any crazy insecure decisions. Yes. And that's when I just started building.
And now you're seeing all the things. So it's all making sense. So
yeah,
I'm always recapping as we go to keep us all together. And this is a good thing. So not only are you finding your way when it comes to the career and things are starting to align themselves in the path in which they're going, and you're now doing the work that you're called to do, and you're bringing your passions together by cooking and being at Downtown Daily Bread. You're also healing personally, which is allowing your true brand and Chef Corrie to like be reimagined for exactly who she is. And you've now been able to develop 3 different cookbooks based upon your own family and your own dynamics and what works for you. So you're being true to and authentic to self, which is now leading itself into your own personal branding. And career-wise then, you're now literally making changes and taking risk for this organization because you internally know, I'm not doing this for validation. I'm doing what's right.
Yes. Exactly.
Girl.
And that's been freeing.
I can imagine.
That had receipts.
Yes.
Meaning like, in 2022, the ED just abruptly left.
Okay.
I didn't want it. I think my whole life is that sentence, like, I didn't ask for this.
Right. You're like, this is actually not where I was going.
I actually did not want to be anybody's CEO. I did not. I was fine with feeding the people.
You're like, I was happy.
And I was like, I'm on somebody. I'm going to still. And I actually was going to leave DD. And I just found I was pregnant. I was about 4 months pregnant.
Oh, congrats.
And I said, maybe it's time to go.
Right.
And my fiance at the time, I was just like, I'm gonna leave. Like, you got it. And he's like, just wait.
Yeah.
And I said, no, like, something's going on.
Right.
And the ED at the time was just like, no, they're gonna fire you at the end of the week. You gotta leave. And we just didn't know what was going on.
Like the organization, like the structure of everything was just,
the organization was done.
Okay.
And her thing was just like, you need to get out in 3 years. Y'all are gonna be done for. And I was just like, what is happening? So I just didn't know. Like
so there's a lot of uncertainty again.
A lot of uncertainty. A lot of confusion.
Right.
I called one of the board members.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, should I get my stuff now?
Right. What are we doing?
And they were like, no, we're literally trying to figure out, are you leaving? Like, if you leave, we don't know what's going to happen.
If you stay.
Like, I'll stay and cook. And that's what I said. I'll stay and cook.
I can't.
We'll have meals.
Yeah.
But then it was like payroll. And I was like, well, who's going to pay us? Because no one here knows. So I had to look that up. So made sure everybody got paid.
So you're just doing the work. Okay.
So I was like, Lord, what is going on with November? So all these things always happen in November.
Reasons to give thanks.
And I said, thank God we're paid. And that was my only goal. Like, if I learn how to do payroll, we'll be fine.
Okay.
That turned into like 15 other things I had to learn to do. And I'm literally running up and down the steps, like cooking. And
then taking care of administration.
Taking care of admin.
Yeah.
Running up and down. And I was fine. I'm like pregnant, whatever.
Yeah.
And December, I think, came around.
Okay.
And I said, what's the plan?
Right.
To the board. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm 5 months pregnant now.
Exactly.
I'm not Superwoman.
Right. What do
we have a plan? And they were like, funny you ask. We're going to name you interim executive director.
There it is.
And I said, are y'all sure? Like, I'm pregnant.
Right.
I'm going to go on maternity leave.
There's going to be a break. Exactly. Yeah.
Are y'all sure?
Right.
And that was too, like, as a woman, I doubted myself because I'm like, why do they want a pregnant woman to be their ED, a Black woman? They've had a white woman for like 2 white women.
All of the reasons. So all the reasons that you've questioned yourself, you questioned yourself again, girl.
Yeah.
Even through healing.
Are you sure?
Right.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. We still have the moments of like that insecurity, the imposter syndrome crept up on me. And I'm like, why me?
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I've been an executive chef.
Right.
Not an executive director.
Right. They're like 2 different
I'm like,
things.
this is too much. Like, I just like the food part. I am not a person to manage. I'm a chef.
Right.
You know, and the board president said, you know, just give it a try.
Yeah.
I think we made this right decision. I was like, fine.
Right.
I'll try it. So they announced
the interim.
Yep. In December.
Okay.
And then by January, February, we negotiated. And I said, like, you know, I got used to it. And then I'm like, well, I don't want a boss. This is fun. Like,
right. You're like, I can actually do this. I love the ability to actually.
Yeah. And so I said, like, this is more than food. Yeah. I think I got it. So then they named, okay, you're officially the ED.
I love that.
And we had an amazing year. I remember my first day an angel donor came in.
Wow.
And they said, you know, my wife volunteered with you. We've been watching you. And he gave us one of the largest donations the organization ever had. And he said, call your board and tell them you had a great first day as ED.
I know that's
and
right.
And it was like God saying, why not you? And that's why I will always talk. Like, I am not a cocky person, but I believe in God so hard after that experience.
Why not you?
Because I'm like, what? And it was just him saying, I got you. You're going to be fine. I'm like, I don't know anything about raising money. And we've gone on in the last 2 years. So the highest that DDB has ever got was $724,000 a year in donations. The last 2 years, we've gone over $1.5 million.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, okay. So every time I question myself, I remind myself, no, you doubled their income. You doubled their revenue. You blessed that. We open dinner. We have dinner now.
So breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yes.
We have a pantry now.
Yes.
I hired my best friend. Chef Maisha, I said, like, I did a month of like ED and chef.
There's no way you can do both.
Always dying. And I'm pregnant. I was like, I'm going to have a baby. I need someone I can trust.
That shows your heart.
Yes.
Which is the reason why you're the right woman for the job.
Thank you.
Like,
thank you. Yeah, because I was like, I'm not going to let this fail.
Exactly.
And it has been amazing. And it's been surreal because I still to this, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this really is my life. And I would have never, like that 17-year-old who held her belly.
Exactly.
Had no idea.
Now probably one of the youngest because you're all this is happening. You hadn't hit, like, you're right there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. At the 30s.
And I'm like, what in the world? Yeah, I won this award in 2023. And they're like, you're the youngest to ever win this award. I'm like, and I felt so honored, but felt like kind of sad because I'm like, I just can't believe, like, sometimes when you're the first to do it, it's overwhelming. No one talks about that. Everyone thinks like, oh, she's the first to do this all year shelter. She's the first to do this. I'm like, it's overwhelming all the time because it's like this like light is on you constantly.
Being the first
and
is
it's like,
scary.
I don't know what I'm doing. I pray every day it works out.
You're just working it out.
Like eventually. But being that first one to like take the risk and just jump on it and do it, and you're like, all right, if you guys trust me, do it, follow along.
I love that.
But it has worked out and it keeps me sane.
I love this.
And yeah, it's just like you look back and you're like, I would have never.
The journey's amazing.
It's like, and to hear it again.
Yes, the journey's phenomenal.
Thankful.
No, and not only,
thankful.
Let's also just throw a quick highlight. Not like this woman needs any more, which is phenomenal what you got going on. Before we talk about where you're headed, let's also just throw out there, not only did we have now the cookbooks and you went from chef to executive director, but can we talk about your 30-minute segments?
Yes.
And talk about what you do with that and how that came about. And then we're going to talk about where we're headed. But girl, let's talk about what else. Yes, we have enough to do.
Exactly.
You decided.
I didn't have enough. I just said, the plate's still missing something.
So what?
Yeah, so I always envisioned myself to have a cooking show.
Okay.
When I was little, my mom and I used to pretend in the kitchen we were on TV.
I love that.
Until that day, I was like 6. And I was like, I'm going to be on TV one day. And she's like, yeah, whatever you want to do. Like, that's fine. Yeah. And that's kind of, I think, where I get my mindset.
You're like, why not? Just try it.
My mom said I could do it.
There it is.
And I talked to like my marketing team one day and I said, I want to be on TV. Like, I know I'm supposed to have a cooking segment. I don't know what it's supposed to be.
But I know that.
But I think I'm ready. Like, I don't get nervous as much. And a live thing is just nerve-wracking. But
I know.
I literally pray for the best. And I'm like vomiting in my head. Like, just don't throw up. Don't throw up.
Yeah.
And we got contacted by Amy at ABC.
Yeah.
Good Day PA.
Good Day PA.
And it was just a conversation. I was just like, hey, like, this would be fun. Maybe I'll just come do a segment. She's like, well, I don't know how to ask you this because I know you're busy.
Right.
But could you like commit to once a month? She's like, because I would love you to have your own segment. And I'm like, huh?
There
like,
it is.
I thought we were just talking about one time.
Right.
And she's like, no, girl, if you say yes, we can do it.
It's a spot. It's yours.
And I'm like, what?
I love that.
And that was like my dream. That was like my one goal that year of like get on TV.
Yeah.
So we have a segment every month. It's the first Monday of the month.
Love that.
And we come back. So I took a 6-month break. I had a health scare last May.
I'm so sorry.
And that put a lot of things into perspective.
Wow.
And I had to sit down. That was like the first time.
Well, clearly, we heard what you were doing for the past several years. So every now and again, sit down and
God will say, like, you need to sit down.
It's time to rest. Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, it was like a scary experience, but I was like, okay, I'm glad that happened.
Okay.
Because I don't think I would have sat down. And God knew what he had to do to get me. Like, it was like okay, the doctors were like, you got to take 6 months.
Yeah.
And so March, my birthday month, will be back March 3rd. To just celebrating life, because I wasn't supposed to make it last year. And I don't take that for granted
at all.
I don't talk about it a lot, but it was one of those things, like even those close to me will start tearing up randomly and they're like, we didn't know if you're going to make it last year. And my team kept that so hush. No one could have known. Those close to me, they saw me after I got out of the hospital.
Right.
They knew.
Wow.
But I mean, we didn't miss a beat at DDB.
I love
Chef
that.
Corrie brand didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God, I will never be ahead of myself again. Like, I rest. It's a weapon. It's not a weakness to rest. So I do that now intentionally.
Amen to that.
Just know,
rest is not,
yes.
that is not a weakness.
Yeah.
It is a
You'll have your best ideas when you just take a break, take a nap, take a rest, take a day,
Take a moment.
off.
Exactly.
And you'll make $1 million idea of if resting. I have learned that last year. Like,
Talk about.
oh, okay. Just need to take a nap for a second.
All I need to
Yeah, my best friend, she loves a nap. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you napping? And I've taken that this year. I do nap now.
There you go.
Because I used to make fun of her. She's like, I took a nap. I'm like, must be nice. Can't find time to take a nap. She's like, find time. I have time, you to have time. And now I found time. And I'm well-rounded.
That's exactly it. So now you've got the segment. And
so now we're back. Yeah.
And you're coming back on your birthday month.
Yes. Yeah. Just a kickoff of the 30-minute meals is all my favorite recipes.
Okay.
They take 30 minutes. When I was pregnant, I wanted to cook.
Yeah.
But I was like so tired of being in the kitchen. And that's when I was like, just started playing around. When you start seeing my social media with new recipes, a cookbook's coming.
You already know.
So yes, we have one coming, dropping at the end of this year. Because I'm just like, okay, these are new ideas. And then I'll catch myself telling my family, oh, this should be in the cookbook. And they're like, you have another one? I'm like, I think it's time. It's time for another one. Every 2 years, I kind of try to drop one. But I pace myself. I think you don't have to always be producing.
Absolutely.
Half the battle is sustaining what you've produced. So sustain.
Talk about it.
There's success in that too. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So that's just a little bit about 30-minute meals with Chef Corrie.
Okay, so I want to make sure, because I want to make sure we talked about all the things.
Yeah.
We've discussed your journey. We've discussed how you've gotten here. We've discussed what you've been able to, all of the moments in your life that should have been moments that broke you down, how you've been able to shift those things and actually create goodness out of them. We've discussed your ability to not only sustain, but to thrive.
Yes.
And in all the things that you've got going on. So let's talk about it. What is the vision now for the future?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's Chef Corrie headed?
Yeah.
Where's Downtown Daily Bread headed?
Yeah. So Downtown Daily Bread, we're on a good ride right now.
I love it.
Just opened 2024, our year-round overnight shelter. That was my last goal for DDB.
Okay.
When I started,
yes,
I was used to say that, like, why do we only have 4 months of emergency shelter?
Right.
It gets cold in May. Like, why can't people be inside?
Exactly.
So that has been a blessing.
Yeah.
We're sustaining all the new programs.
Yeah.
We're launching a transportation program. To just get people to work, to get people to the doctor,
all the things
to kind of cut the middleman out and just have a hub.
Yes.
For our own, like, we know our guests. And just to cut that middleman out. But really, the next couple of years will just be sustaining all the new programs that we put in place to make sure we're really providing for the community. I just redid our computer lab.
Yay.
And so we're going to have more like educational things, not just for our guests, but for agencies that want to come in and learn, like, hey, how did you do this with unrestricted funds? How did you do this?
So you're going to allow for, because no one talks about the fact that there's, like, I don't want to call it gatekeeping.
Oh, it's gatekeeping.
But like,
we can call it that.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm trying my best, but I mean, no, you're good. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, and that's why these conversations are important. And that's why I love sharing the space that we're sharing for several reasons. At times it can feel like when you see someone at the height of, you don't know the journey that it took to get them to. Yeah. And so you automatically X yourself out or say that you can't because all you see is individuals. You see the highlights, right? You see where they're at the hype of it all. Yeah. And so the conversation is important in that. But then in that same regard, and what you're saying now is so beautiful. And I just want to highlight that too, because then when you do find opportunities or you find a way to make things happen, the ability to share in community and the ability to allow, like, we're stronger together. Exactly. And we can do more. Yes. When we together. Yeah. And so that is amazing. So you're now providing an opportunity for individuals to actually learn and grow. I really want to hone in. Harrisburg is like a weird place sometimes. Can be. With collaborations. I've not experienced that. I love that. I don't compete with anybody. There is no competition with me. Amen. You can't.
because I'm not made to do you. You're not made to do me.
Right.
And I think once people know that, it's easier to collaborate because it's like, I can't do what Lissette's doing.
Right.
She can't do what I'm doing. We have our own secret sauce.
Absolutely.
I can't reinvent that.
Correct.
But if I want to know how she makes her sauce, I can ask. And so my philosophy has always been, why would I want to burn myself out and be the only person doing this? People think it's such a like, oh my gosh, I'm going to open a shelter. Please do. And if I can get you beds, yeah, we'll get you beds. Because I'm tired.
Right.
So I think I have that different mindset. Because there are leaders that are like, we can't give our secrets. Me, I'm like, come on in. I'm building you a place.
Absolutely.
Where we all as agency leaders are going to sit down.
Yeah.
And I'll start consulting more on, hey, this is the grants I write. I write all the grants for DDB.
You do write them.
And I write all of them. It's easier, I think, too, for me. I love grant writing. That's one thing you learn at school through communications. Yep. But it's easier to tell your story when you're there. Why would I hire somebody else to tell my story and my organization's story?
True story.
And it's a money saver.
Absolutely.
But it takes time and it's time management. You have to have a good right-hand person that can hold down the operations while I shut down for a week in my office to write grants. You have to have an understanding team.
Yes.
But those are conversations that leaders don't sit with each other and say, I don't think I've had but 5 people in 2 years say, well, how are you doing that? And I will give them the unlimited resources that we have because they took their pride aside. And these were powerful leaders that I looked up to. And I'm like, you're asking me? But I will respect that.
Absolutely.
Because they see like, well, it's working. She got this money. She's doing this. And I'm like, whatever y'all need.
And
just tell me.
Set your ego aside.
Exactly.
And just collaborate.
And just ask. I remember there was a lady when I was going to church. She had this Range Rover. And I was like, Dad, I want a Range Rover. Like, she has this nice car. Yeah. He's like, well, go ask her how she got it. Go ask her what she does. And that's how I live life. Like, Dad, with all it, I don't get jealous.
Yes.
I'm just like, hey, how did you have your marriage last?
Exactly.
I want to have a lasting marriage. How did you? And I think when you ask questions, you're educated. And so that's our goal at DDB and the Chef Corrie brand, is just to consult more and to help everybody kind of reach their level of success. And I think, too, it's just another way to give back. I have a lot of resources, a lot of connections.
I love that.
And I think you do yourself a disservice of like, why be blessed with all this stuff to hold it for yourself? My family is good. My staff is good.
Right.
Those are the things I set up for the last 2 years.
Absolutely.
Now it's time. Okay, is the community good? Are there other agencies that can tap into what we're doing?
Right.
And say, hey, we don't have to do this every day. Maybe you guys want to do it and we'll write a grant that gives you money. And we just put our name on it that you've helped us.
Love that. So now
it has to be okay with that.
And the ability to expand.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding correctly, what's next for the future is collaboration.
Yes, very much more collaboration, education.
And you're just education, collaboration, and just allowing the width and the span to just grow.
Yes.
Because we're stronger together.
Exactly.
You better. Okay.
And I just want people to just really live that.
Yes.
Because you do get more done. We've done some great collaborations.
Yes.
And it's like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to be the only person doing it if we can have 5 other people and then it gets done 5 times faster?
Right.
And I always say, your reach is not my reach, but we can reach those multitudes together.
Absolutely.
And why not?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So
I love
that's the goal for the next couple years. I'm getting my daughter ready for college. So for that too, the future is bright. Yes. And I'm excited. I'm coming up on 10 years of being at DDB altogether.
That's exciting.
And that is exciting. And that's when I'll know, hey, it's time to pivot, see what's next.
And see what's going on.
Yeah.
I love that for you. But it sounds like you're being very intentional with
Very intentional. This year is like the most intentional year I have.
Okay.
I'm saying very intentional yeses and very intentional nos.
Amen.
And just where I'm at, people will know like, oh, she was intentional about that.
That was an intentional
I think once you get to a certain place in success, people watch you differently, but you have to make sure you're not just co-signing everything.
Amen.
Because people will call you. They don't care about you. They don't care about your brand, your organization. They're just like, well, she'll bring a crowd or she'll do this. And I learned that last year.
Okay.
So this year I was very much more intentional on, even to my circle, even to whoever I'm with.
Okay.
It will just elude what I've been working on, which is
Absolutely.
consistency
Amen.
and collaboration and just that like authenticity.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I always ask these last two questions,
Yeah.
and you've given so much. But the first one is, what advice would you give someone who is currently at a crossroads? Is how I'm going to ask the question this time. They're in that point of the way you've been at several different points of your life, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or that, or I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Like,
Yes.
what advice would you give the person that's at a true crossroads in life and doesn't know what they should do?
Yeah. I would say take the day.
Okay. I love that.
The best decisions I've made were 24 hours.
Amen. So as always, I always come up with some key takeaways from today's conversation. And girl, I've been wrapping my mind around trying to figure out exactly what I want to share, because throughout this entire conversation, there have been so many. So, I mean, I just pray that like this resonates, because your story's phenomenal.
Thank you.
My first key takeaway, though, that I wanted to share, and it actually comes from your dad.
Yeah. I love that.
It's what you had said that your dad said earlier that like struck a chord with me, which is, if it doesn't bring you to tears, like if it doesn't burden you, it's not your passion. Like it's not your thing.
Yeah.
And I find that to be very interesting and a key takeaway, because there's so much that we can do when it comes to living and life and careers and things. And in a day where social media is present and you can constantly see individuals doing different ventures and going from this to that, like it can get very convoluted and it can get very confusing. And at times you may feel like this is the right thing or that's the right thing. But when it comes to true passion, if it doesn't move you, wake you up at night, burden you, bring you to true tears, it is not passion. And if you choose to live a life where you're not going towards passion, that's fine. But like if you're looking for passion, wait for the thing that moves you and brings you to tears. That's my first key takeaway.
Yes.
I thought that was just beyond beautiful. The second key takeaway that I wanted to talk about, that you mentioned, that I think that's just important, and it's just a reminder in life.
Yeah.
And it's what you said. It's the advice that you gave. It's the idea of rest is not a weakness. It is a weapon.
Yeah.
I thought that was a huge key takeaway, because, and I know I'm guilty of it myself. Like you can, when you find your passion, when you are burdened, when you are in a position where you know that you want to make change. I always say that I live by my favorite quote, be the change you hope to see in the world, Gandhi. Like that's the quote I live by.
Yeah.
When you go into those things, at times we can go. And what I want to remind us, and Corrie mentioned it today, and I thought it was just like a perfect reminder, and it's definitely a takeaway, is that rest and taking time to rest is just as, should I say, if not more important for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we need to be our best versions and our best selves in order to give our best. So rest is not a weakness. It is a weapon and should be used accordingly. My third key takeaway is what you were talking about in community, which I think is important. And let us lean to that more. Like, we're stronger together.
Yeah.
Let us move from a place of collaboration. Let us like look to one another, lean on one another. And also in that sense of collaboration, do not allow your ego to keep you from your next blessing.
Yeah.
Because a question, asking, how did you, hey, I'm thinking of, and just the ability to either think tank with one another, or, you know, have those moments to kind of like bounce something off, the ability to just ask really good questions, the ability to put yourself in positions to also be available, I think is imperative. So I thought that was another key takeaway. Like, don't allow your ego to get in your way. Like, be collaborative. We are stronger together.
Yeah.
And then my final key takeaway, and I'm trying to think about the way I want to word this, and it's everything that you've said this entire time.
Yeah.
It's the idea of, how do I want to say this? I'll say it this way. You are enough. That's going to be my final key takeaway, because at different points you have said there were moments of, I wasn't sure. I went through imposter syndrome. I felt rejected. And yet God continued to put you in positions to win. You made very, very discerning decisions from a very young age of passion. You made the decision that you were enough. You made the decision that your daughter was enough. You made decisions and you've continued to move forward. So I just want to remind and make that our final key takeaway, that anyone who's listening or watching this, you too are enough. And it's not a matter of where you start or what circumstance or situation you find yourself in. Continue the journey. If you have something in your heart and you're burdened that it moves you to tears, move into that passion. Don't allow circumstance to stop you. Lean on individuals around you. And yeah, let's just continue to push forward. I could not have, girl, that's all you. I'm just putting together what you have shared. So yeah, thank you so much for your heart, your time here. This community needs you. We're so happy that you're here. You're continuing to push forward. I love that you're coming into your authentic self. And like I said, girl, you think you're coming into it in your 30s? I promise you, I just hit 40 this year and something shifted in me.
I cannot wait.
It's only going to get better for you.
Good.
So I'm excited for everything you have going on. I cannot wait for what's to come and where you go from here. So yeah, thank you for your time.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving those that I say it's unseen. You see me.
Yes.
And thank you for that.
Absolutely.
We don't ever get to that level where these are the conversations I'd love to have.
That's exactly it.
And it just was, thank you for this.
No, 100%. Final thing, where can people find you?
Yeah.
Put all your and then we'll plug it in on the description, but where can people find you?
Yeah, so Facebook, Corrie Ligenfelter, Instagram, Chef Corrie.
Yes.
And the website, if you could need a cookbook or want to catch the show, chefcorrie.org.
Love it.
And yeah, downtowndailyBread.org. Go see how you can volunteer. Come in and visit.
Yes.
We have Coffee with Corrie's on Wednesday, so follow our Facebook page and they can come have coffee with me and get to know what we're doing in DDB.
I love that. We're going to put all that down at the bottom of the description, guys. Yet again, this has been another amazing episode. So as always, sending light, sending love. Bye.